Okay. So if we look at equities, the S&P, this is basically the driving factor for the crypto market, okay? Unless equities are ripping, unless equity markets are doing well, Bitcoin's not going to play out too well. And then if Bitcoin's not pumping, of course, altcoins are not going to pump. So I had this drawn out for a while now. But on equities, we can just do it on the daily for now, okay? We got our major demand zone here, all right? And then we had our supply overhead that was originally demand, and then we broke through it, waterfall down to this demand zone, came back up and retested the supply perfectly, come back down, retested the demand perfectly, okay? So this is just to show you that market structure works, TA works. I had this drawn out from over here, right, as demand. So you pull it over, and over time, it plays that way. Why is this supply? Because when we had come up into this region in the first place, okay, we basically rejected, came back down, chewed through it, kind of rejected again, and then as soon as we popped back through it, we pumped up, came back down, retested it, bounced up off of it, and then we keep bouncing up off of it. So this was demand. There was a lot of demand there. Well, when we finally broke down through the supply, well, it was demand, but we broke down through it. It became supply overhead. We waterfalled all the way back down to this major demand zone. Again, we had this drawn out from before it hit. It was, this was up here when we had this drawn out across. What does it do? Exactly that. Retests demand on the pullback. So it's a 10% pullback, large pullback. Come back up, retest supply, reject, come back down to the demand, and we bounce right up out of the demand. Okay? So this is still demand. This, we got to hold, okay? We got to hold this demand zone. If we don't hold this demand, then we're coming back down into here. Which certainly is not something we want to do, okay? Certainly not something we want to do, because if we come back down into there, that's another 4%. And then total, that would be a 13% pullback. That's not looking good. We hit something like that, then I'm concerned, okay? I'm concerned because we haven't had that large of a pullback over here previous. So like this pullback was about 10%, okay? So that was a 10% pullback. We recovered from it, so that's fine. This one over here, back in July of 23, was also a 10% pullback. Okay, 11%. And then down here was bear market. Okay, bear market low in 22. So that we're not going to count. So this is in bull run. So we get 11% pullback, 10% pullback. Right now here we're at a 10-11% pullback. So we've done that before. Okay, we can survive that. We can still pump way higher out of those moves. But if we lose this demand and we come back down into this demand zone, that's a 13% pullback. That's now something we haven't seen before in this bull run for this cycle. Now I'm concerned. Okay, now I'm a little concerned. Okay, what's going on? Why do we get that aggressive a pullback? Can we still break out of this? Can we still reclaim market structure and start moving back up the upside again, or do we go to a recession? Okay, so that's what I would be looking for on the S&P. We break this demand, we lose this. If we come back down into 5250, 5300 on the S&P, yeah, I'm not happy with that. Okay. All right, so I got a question on the stream. Do you believe since this cycle there's so many coins that liquidity won't flow to majority of coins, causing price targets to be a lot lower than usual? Yeah, so I've heard about this before, that there's too many altcoins for some just to run the way that they can run. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I would also argue there's way more market participants this cycle and a lot more liquidity that's going to be able to go around, okay? So the reason that you saw such a ridiculous blow off in 2021 is because all the money that got printed from COVID. Okay, so it was just a ridiculous liquidity event where everything was able to pump to huge highs. Now you think about it, 4 or 5 years later, as the global liquidity is going up, which I'm going to show you guys here in a second, even though there's more assets and more coins, it's not gonna there's not going to be a vampire effect to the major winners in the long run, because the major winners always attract all the liquidity back to them. Okay. So for example, Trump coin comes out, that definitely vampired liquidity from other assets, 100%. But that's just a anomaly type of drop of a coin. So it was just a fucked up situation. And while we were already downtrending. So can a Trump coin affect liquidity and siphon liquidity out of other assets? Yes, that can. On a larger scale, winners like Pepe, coins like XRP, coins similar to, what else are major winners this cycle? I mean, Solana is obviously doing well. So what are major altcoins? Dogecoin will be fine. Like these major assets, the winners, Pepe, the Boys Club, Brett, those sorts of things, they're always going to get liquidity to siphon back into them, because what will happen is as people take profits out of the smaller assets, they're going to rotate them back up the risk curve into those larger assets. And there's only so many altcoins that you can size into effectively. So the reason that having a bunch of different shitters out doesn't really kill how high some coins can pump is because the major money isn't going to be investing into those small assets anyways. The only people who are buying these $1 million market cap shit coins are people who have $200, $300, $400 and they can actually size into something like that, or got a couple grand and they can size into something like that. Major investors, major players, people who are going to move markets to these massive multi-$100 billion evaluations, multi-billion dollar evaluations are going to be people who have to size into something like Pepe. The reason Pepe works, the reason Pepe will pump is because if somebody wants to put $1 million into Pepe, they can. They can't put $1 million into a $100 million market cap coin. It's not going to work. So that in and of itself doesn't allow these small assets to siphon liquidity out of those larger ones, because it's just the money's going to rotate to the big caps anyways, if that makes sense. Okay. So no, I don't believe that. For me, that's just a cope as to why alt season hasn't happened yet. But the reason alt season hasn't happened yet, we talked about in last stream, is because IWM. This is the only reason we haven't had alt season yet. It's because IWM didn't break all-time highs yet. As soon as IWM breaks this all-time high, we tested it here in November, December. Guess what? That's whenever altcoins topped out, as they always do. Came into our demand zone. As soon as IWM breaks the new all-time highs, we have alt season. You see those $100 billion market cap targets. It's going to happen still. That's what I'm saying. As long as you don't believe we're going into a recession, IWM will bounce from here, start trending up again. And once we break all-time highs, Ethereum will be at new all-time highs. XRP will be at new all-time highs. Solana, and then all of our altcoins, Pepe, Andy, Wolf, Brett, everything at new all-time highs. We just need IWM to new all-time highs. Last time IWM broke to new all-time highs was in November of 2020. Well, what happened in Q1, Q2 of 2021? You have your fucking ridiculous bear or bull market. Whenever Dogecoin went to $80 billion market cap from like 1 or 2 billion in the course of a couple months. Think about that. Doge went from a $1 or $2 billion market cap in a couple months to about 90. It did like an 80 to a 90x in a couple months. So trust me, liquidity will be there when shit starts getting insane.